que va a los centroamericanos y del Caribe, según nos la suministró Paquito Rodríguez. Agradecemos también algunas estadísticas que me proveyó esta tarde el compañero Paquito Rodríguez de la Federación de Baloncesto de Puerto Rico, donde ya, del que se perdió hoy la práctica del equipo nacional que va a Venezuela, fue desde las 11 de la mañana a la 1, a las 5:30 y a las 7. Mañana viernes estarán a este mismo horario en el Mario Quijote Morales de Guaynabo, a las 11, a la 1, a las 5:30, a las 7, bajo la dirección de Raymond Dalmau, y hay 18 muchachos o baloncelistas prometedores todos dentro del equipo, incluyendo los 3 hijos de Raymond, que son Ricky, Richie y Cristian Dalmau, además de otros grandes prometedores. Y también a Tim Reyes decía que agradece a Cuco Ortiz, el apoderado de Bayamón, por haber dejado a Sharif Fajardo y Daniel Santiago participar en este equipo que va a los centroamericanos a comenzar desde el 8 de agosto en Venezuela. Así que más tarde estaremos hablando de esto, y de los juveniles que estarán jugando ya desde el sábado, según nos comunicaron hoy. Ahí está Carlitos Morales impartiendo sus instrucciones al equipo de Puerto Rico. El Galeón se ve desde este momento, ya van a comenzar el encuentro. Repetimos que de ganar Puerto Rico hoy, mañana viernes, irá por la medalla a las 9 de la noche. Ya están listos para comenzar. Ese Gates, el número 10, ese señor que está ahí, tiene 15 años de experiencia, como les dije antes, NBAista con los Washington Bullets, 254 Juegos Olímpicos, campeonatos mundiales, internacionales en diferentes países, escogido el más valioso, el All-Star, donde quiera sobresalido el número 10 Gates. Vamos a ver, aquí está Eddie Casiano con el número 5 para comenzar por Puerto Rico. 24.7 puntos por juego, o sea, casi 25 puntos. Es el líder en anotaciones en estos juegos de la buena voluntad. Ese es Ronaldson con 8 años de experiencia. Ronaldson es delantero. Y ahí ya Puerto Rico se llevó la bola. Vámonos al audio original.
Gives him another ball handler. Ortiz right to work on Rogers. Bulls his way to the hoop. Jose Ortiz, we mentioned earlier, the only player in the tournament averaging a double-double. This is Gaze. That's for 3. Broken loose nicely by McKinnon for Australia. They go back to work with a fresh 30. Ronaldson's shot is missed, and here comes Casiano, leading the break with the 3 guards coming up the floor. Mincy, who has shot a lot from the outside this time, takes that ample body of his, 6'7", 235, and goes right where he should go, to the rack. And Puerto Rico is off to the 4-0 lead. Australia, of course, a guard-oriented team. The forwards have hit in double figures only twice. Lahav, who got the start in the last game, and Ronaldson in their last game. This is Ronaldson, and that was for 3. So Australia is on the board as Ronaldson connects with a tray. He had 12 against Lithuania, by far his best performance. And that was their victory on Tuesday that allowed Australia to advance. Mincy, we mentioned he shot a lot from beyond the arc, and he strokes it right there. That was for 3. Jerome Mincy coming in had shot an average of 4 3-pointers per contest. Now he is their 6'7" power forward. Good move against the big man. That was Ronaldson against Ortiz. Casiano, that's for 3. Ortiz frisky in the early going. And a fresh half minute for Puerto Rico. 2 minutes now gone here in the first half. Ortiz behind his back that time for the cutting James Carter. And the turnover for Puerto Rico. Nope, they said it was last touched by Australia. Jerome Mincy at 33. And as you can see, he could play the power game or pull it outside. Cassiano in rhythm for 3. Puerto Rico coming into this one as a team shooting over 53% for the tournament. And that was Paul Rogers. Rogers, a start in their last game against Lithuania, 13 and 9 boards. He is their leading rebounder, and he's shooting 62%. He's also second to Gaze in scoring, though averaging half as much as Gaze, 12 points per game. The Puerto Rican lead is 2. Ortiz lost the handle. They recycled the shot clock. I'm not sure that ball hit the rim, but whatever, Australia has it. Gaze to his spot, and right out on him is Mincy. This is Heel. Shane Heel. Heel really rebounded from a subpar performance against Russia. He had 12 and 8 assists in their victory against Lithuania, though struggling overall in the Goodwill games, only 38% shooting. In the 2 Australian wins, Heel is shooting 50% from beyond the arc. Ortiz, and he walked. A traveling violation on Jose Ortiz, the first turnover of the game. Heel in all is averaging 11 points per game. That puts him 3rd on the team in the Goodwill games. Locked up at 7. Australia in search of its first lead. Good look inside. Ronaldson, and McKinnon flushed it down. Tony Ronaldson, a good look to the slicing McKinnon, and a run here for Australia puts them up by 2. They ripped off 6 straight. Almost 4 minutes gone now here in the first half. Mincy wants it against Ronaldson, and he has his way. So Jerome Mincy finding the net here early. He has 7 of Puerto Rico's 9 on 3-for-3 shooting. And we're locked up at 9. Heel off the dime. Gathered in by Cassiano. There you see the guards getting out with their quickness, and a nice play there, hanging in the air by James Carter, the native New Yorker. And it's Puerto Rico by a deuce. Gaze for the lead. That was for 3. Puerto Rico wants to run, and they're showing it. Ortiz against Ronaldson, who was helpless. Jose Ortiz, when he gets it in deep, you could chalk it up. He is 2 for 4, 4 points, and a 6-0 Puerto Rican run. They lead by 4. Rogers in rhythm. 1 and done for Australia. Puerto Rico has been out-rebounded in every game they have played thus far, as Ortiz, who has shown in this tournament he can get out and run. Puerto Rico shooting 64%, and Ortiz has dropped a half dozen. They lead by 6 now, the largest lead of the game. Gaze here, yet to get it going. He's 0 for 2 with 5 and change gone. Heel in rhythm. Ortiz another board. And the steal by Australia. Gaze for 3, and he rips the net. Andrew Gaze, the leading scorer in the Goodwill games, 24 per night. Actually, the leading scorer for Australia, we mentioned earlier, Cassiano, is averaging 25 per game, 58% shooting for Gaze, and 54% from beyond the arc. Ortiz in rhythm, got it down. So the forwards for Puerto Rico are playing extremely well. Jose Ortiz now with 8 to lead them, and they lead by 5, the largest lead of the matchup thus far. Ronaldson. Ortiz now with 4 boards. Handling it himself. It's 3 on 2. Carter finds Ortiz, who gets 2 more. Puerto Rico able to run against Barry Barnes' team, helped by the fact that they're playing 3 guards. Jose has scored the last 8 points for Puerto Rico, and all he's got 10, and their margin is 7. We played just over 6.5 here in the first half. Heel got a good screen from Ronaldson, found Gaze on the option. He was fouled. That would have counted. He was plowed over by Ortiz. That's not pretty. Jose at 6'10" and 240. And Andrew Gaze will go to the line where he has not missed yet. 16 for 16 for the Goodwill Games. We have a timeout. Almost 7 minutes gone here from Madison Square Garden. Puerto Rico off and running, 69% shooting in the first half. Straight, and he'll get a couple right here. I should amend a statement I made before. Jose Ortiz took a shot. They recycled the shot clock. The ball did not hit the rim. In international play, the shot clock is recycled when the ball leaves the player's hand. So you learn something every day, and in my case, that's especially true. Puerto Rico has made 6 straight from the field, and all 69% shooting. Ortiz against Anstey, who's coming to the game, follows his own miss. Gaze, nice look inside for Ronaldson. Andrew Gaze, by the way, also leads his team in assists. And a good look right there for Ronaldson. So 4 straight, make it 3 straight for Australia out of the timeout. Gaze moments ago missing his first foul shot of the Goodwill Games. Cassiano lost it. Ortiz was looking at it all the way. Jose Ortiz is really looking aggressive. Already he's got 12 and 5 boards. He is reputed to be one of, if not the greatest, professional basketball player in the island's history. Went to school in the United States, Oregon State. Cup of coffee with the Utah Jazz of the NBA. Australia with 10 to shoot. Heel into action. Finds McKinnon in rhythm. 1 and done still for Australia. Cassiano. Interesting that Barry Barnes pulled Rogers out of the game as Anstey came in to replace him. Rogers has been their best rebounder, and rebounding has been a problem for Australia here in the first half of the first half. Mincy on the drive, the bump and run, and the foul. Do not count the field goal. A look at the aforementioned Paul Rogers, who has taken the starting spot in the middle away from Chris Anstey. We have a timeout here. Almost 9 minutes gone in the first half. Puerto Rico continues to front run. Very good about this one so far. Gaze has a man in the corner who just came into the game. That's number 5, Brett Mayer. Anstey the pull. Gaze here with a fresh 30, misses again. Ortiz standing tall, but it's the hustling Mayer going at it with Colon as it goes out of bounds. It'll belong to Puerto Rico. Javier Colon, number 10, once again, a start for the 2nd straight game. Carlos Morales liking the look of 3 guards. He's actually been a double-figure scorer in every game played thus far. Under the watchful gaze of Andrew, if you will. Cassiano yet to get it going. But of course the second half has been his time, though right here comes up with a deuce. Puerto Rico its largest advantage at 8. And we have a call here from Ed Hightower. As we take a look once again at Cassiano, the type of player he is, they like to run him around a series of screens, and Ortiz and Mincy provide the interference, and Cassiano, the lefty, gets the deuce. Mayer right off the pass, the miss. Australia struggling at around 30%. Together with the fact that Puerto Rico is dominating the glass, 2 of the big reasons why they are down 8. Cassiano against Mayer, that would have counted. And we have a foul here on the floor, I believe. Brett Mayer, the personal. Whistles have been relatively silent here in the first half. Only the first on Mayer, just the second on the team. Only 2 on each team, and in fact, Cassiano was in the act, so he will get 2. The United States, in its only loss, had their fill of Cassiano. 25 of his 31 coming in the second half of that one. Despite missing one, the biggest lead of the night for Puerto Rico as we reach the halfway point of the first half. They're ahead by 9. Heels pass for Blaha has come into the game, intercepted. Puerto Rico again. The track meet, the block in there by Anstey as Colon went to the rack. It goes out of bounds and Puerto Rico will keep it. Anstey looking as active and as crisp as I have seen him in the 4 games that Australia has played thus far. Spent his rookie year in the NBA. Ortiz walked. It is the 4th turnover on Puerto Rico. They have kept turnovers pretty much under control, averaging about 11 per game, same as their opponent. Australia 14 per contest. But Australia has done better on the boards in the Goodwill games than Puerto Rico. They're down 9. Heel, that's for 3, and he buried it. They could use a good one from him. Remember, the bulk of their scoring comes from the backcourt. Good move by Carter with a crossover, hit the deck, no whistle. Finally brought down by Gaze. It's a 3-on-2 for Australia. Heel to his spot, blows by, had Anstey, and it went right through his hands. This is a 3-on-2, and Carter's going to solo. That pass went right through Chris Anstey's hands. 4 for Carter. And the Puerto Rico advantage back to 8. Talk about domination. That's not only post-up stuff, that's getting out into the open floor and getting some easy layups. Anstey on the floor, strong to the goal for 2. Mentioned it earlier, Chris Anstey looking as good as he has since the Australian team arrived in the United States, and that was his best move by far. Book it. That's his first 2. And now trying to deed up against Ortiz, and he sneaks around the post and comes up with a pick. Anstey takes on all comers, and he jams for 2. This is the Chris Anstey that Don Nelson of the Dallas Mavericks drafted a year ago. 4 straight for Anstey and Australia. Under 8 to play in the first half. Carter, the look-away fake, froze the defense out of bounds, and it belonged to Puerto Rico. We have a timeout.
En el 90.
Welcome back, everyone, to Madison Square Garden, where the Australians are struggling with their shooting. Unusual, too, because they're not a bad shooting team and particularly potent from beyond. But right now they trail it on the scoreboard by 4, 26-22. Chris Anstey playing by far his best basketball, battling the hefty Jose Ortiz and then using his quickness. Remember, this guy was a star tennis player in his teens in Australia, and he credits his ability as a tennis player with quickening his feet and enabling him to do stuff like that. Run the floor at 7-1, 255. A guy who prefers power forward, playing the center spot for his national team here in New York. Number 7, Orlando Santiago coming into the game for the first time. For Puerto Rico, out of the game goes James Carter. And into the net goes the ball thanks to Javier Colon. For Colon, his first points, his first field goal, a guy who's scored in double figures in every game thus far. So with Santiago, it enables Puerto Rico to maintain the 3-guard look as Anstey, the bump and run with Ortiz, no foul called. Only 2 team fouls apiece here, and we've played 13 minutes of the 20-minute half. Good patience by Australia. Gaze with the offensive rebound and a fresh 24. Left open, which of course is very dangerous. For Gaze, the second field goal. And Australia down by as many as 9. Cutting it once again to 4. Cologne looking for Mincy. Australia had it well covered. And Cologne seeking to take it back. Mayer comes up with it. Anstey finds Heel, steps into a 3, got it. Shane Heel, his shooting woes healed. He is 3 for 5 for 8 to lead Australia. He's got a couple of trays, and that cuts the Puerto Rican advantage to 1. 6 and change to go first half. And a whistle as Mincy and number 14, Andrew Vlahov, go wrestling along the lower box. Javier Colon, moments ago, turned the ball over, and then the near steal here, trying to get it back. Scrapping among the Australian players, and he almost came up with it. Number 13 for Puerto Rico is into the game for the first time. We speak of Edgar Leon, who has been a regular off the bench, averaging about 17 minutes per game. Cologne goes out of the game as Vlahov comes down with a miss in Australia in search of its first lead in a while. Mayer, that was for 3. He hit it. Hitting the deck is Anstey, so it could be a foul on Puerto Rico as well. So they could get the ball back, meaning Australia in addition to the 3-pointer counting. And I think that's going to be the case. Now watch Anstey there getting plastered by his number 13 counterpart, Edgar Leon. So count the 3-pointer. Ortiz comes down with his 9th rebounder. Does he out of bounds? Oh, last touch by Australia. It'll belong to Puerto Rico. 3 team fouls apiece, by the way, under 6 to play first half. Orlando Vega has come into the game for the first time for Puerto Rico. He is a live body wearing number 11. And he is in, locking up with Andrew Gaze. This is Santiago. Little used, though, playing more here as the Goodwill Games has gone on. And that is Vega with his first touch, and that's Anstey jealously coming down with a rebound. Australia by 2 with the ball. A 12-2 Australian run and only their second lead of the first half. And Santiago saw it all the way, and Cassiano will see his way to the bucket. That's the Puerto Rican quickness with guys like Mincy on the bench. The 3 guards cover some court. We're locked at 30. Anstey in rhythm. Ortiz runs the floor, being pursued by 2 Australians who combine to rip it away. A 5-on-4 as Anstey hits Vlahov. Anstey got the rebound. I don't believe they're going to count it. We get a foul here against Australia. In the meantime, Puerto Rico averaging only about 5 steals for the tournament. Comes up with one here. That is Orlando Santiago. The foul, by the way, was Anstey, his second. And here we have Cassiano cashing in. So 2 on Anstey, who's playing well, and 4 on the team. So Barry Barnes perhaps saw something in Anstey's eyes. We were wondering why he was pulling Rogers out of the game, but Anstey is playing like we expected him to. In fact, Australia has outscored Puerto Rico, make it 17-13 since Anstey entered the game, as Cassiano beginning to warm here. And Puerto Rico nudges ahead by a deuce. Cassiano now suddenly with 7 here in the first half. Gaze lines up a tray. Ortiz already with a double-double. Check that, he's got 9 rebounds. 9 rebounds for Ortiz. Under 4 now to play in the first half. Cassiano against Mayer. Heel for 3 in the lead, yes. Shane Heel has found the mark once again. He leads Australia with 11. 3 threes for him, and Australia noses ahead by 1. Three straight threes for Shane Heel. Santiago, a good stop and go. Do not count it. We have a foul on the floor against Shane Heel. And for Heel, just his first. Both teams with some fouls to give here. Australia only their 15th foul. Puerto Rico just 3 team fouls. We have a timeout. It is the ultimate for any basketball player growing up in any country to play the game in the game's origin. We speak of the United States, and a number of players from both teams have experienced action in the United States, be it professional or college. Anstey right now is still a rookie. Heel, a cup of coffee with Minnesota. Rogers drafted by the Lakers. Ortiz 2 years with Utah. Travieso and Edgar Padilla, a terrific backcourt with UMass. And Jerome Mincy under Hubie Brown here in New York. Here's Puerto Rico out of the timeout. And Anstey with one arm wrestles that away for his third. His Australian team up 1 with the ball. 3 minutes now to go here in the first half. Heel blows by Santiago, met by Ortiz's resistance, but Heel overcomes it. Shane Heel's been the man for Australia. Here in the first half, he's got 13. On 5 for 7 shooting, 3 of those from beyond. And Australia leading by 3, its largest lead. Santiago creating for Vega. Where Orlando Vega's got some good speed. He moved right to that spot. The guy who once played in Turkey. Ronaldson hops into the tray and he drains it. Here's a guy I like. He plays within himself. He can be physical, good passer. Tony Ronaldson now with 8. Australia, its largest lead at 4. Ortiz rolling in rhythm to the glass. One of the best I've seen here at the Goodwill games at hitting the window. Ortiz now with 14. He is averaging 18 and 10, as mentioned earlier, the only player here at the Goodwill games averaging a double-double. Good look, gaze for Ronaldson, and he got it. Nursed it home. Well done by both Andrew Gaze and Tony Ronaldson. Gaze, as mentioned, along with his potent scoring, the leading assist man for Australia, and they're up 4. It's their largest lead. Puerto Rico up by as many as 9. Good defense by Heel on Santiago, who shakes free and gets 2. Make it 3. A 3-pointer for Orlando Santiago. It's only his second field goal of the tournament. Gaze, by the way, we mentioned earlier his passing ability. He has dropped 5 dimes, as the American players call them, or assists. Good look, Heel for Ronaldson, who finishes the job in spite of the looming presence of Ortiz. And Ronaldson is into double figures with a dozen on 5 for 8 shooting. Australia has recovered very nicely from that early cold spell to shoot 47% as Vega. He's got a great first step. He's got 4. Australia protecting the 1-point lead. Now about a 12-second difference between the clocks here. Gaze hoping to go a 2 for 1 and get another look. But the shot clock is unplugged. Puerto Rico going right to it here with the numbers. Vega locked off, tried to give it up to Leon. To the floor they go, wrestling, and finally they'll jump it up. We have a timeout called by Puerto Rico. The waning moments of the first half with Australia holding on to that 1-point advantage. 14 of the Aussie 17 field goals have come because of an assist. Gaze leading them with 5 and Heel chipping in with 3. By the way, each team with fouls to give here. We'll see if that doesn't come into play as we jump it up here after the timeout. And it's controlled by the Australians, and methinks it will hold for 1. The shot clock unplugged. Heel against James Carter, who's come back. Ronaldson runs interference. There's a foul to be given right there. So 7.5 now remaining here in the first half. Leon, his second, and only the 4th from Puerto Rico. And coming into the game is number 12, Rolando Ororittenauer. In the meantime, James Carter comes out. We have a timeout called by Australia. We'll take a timeout as well. We'll be back. To take some fouls here. That was Eugenio Soto, number 15. Watch this wizardry by Gaze. Wow, what a move. A guy's going to be 35 tomorrow with some quicks when he needs them. And here's Cassiano coming back for offense, and trotting out is Soto. Also coming back is Javier Colon in for Rolando Ororittenauer. And I'm glad that Rolando's going out because that name can be somewhat troublesome. Gaze, who finally missed a free throw after hitting 16 straight before tonight, makes 1. Now remember, Barry Barnes has some fouls to give here too with 3.5 to go. We'll see if that strategy doesn't come into play. Meantime, Gaze puts them up 4. This is Santiago, a monstrous 3. It's well off, and that'll do it. So Australia comes back after a slow start. Barry Barnes and Andrew Gaze's team rallying, down as many as 9 and shooting well below 40%. They up it to 46% by halftime. Puerto Rico shooting 54%, and Australia has evened things up on the boards. Here at Madison Square Garden, where Game 2 will start right after this one, about 25 minutes after it. That will be the United States and Lithuania. Puerto Rico is in red. Australia is in gold. And we'll jump it up here to begin the second half between the 7-footer Anstey and the 6'10 Jose Ortiz. And Australia has it. And the second half is underway. Ortiz, nowhere close to Anstey, is beyond the arc. McKinnon wants Cassiano, and why not? Good give and go to Anstey, who swoops and scores. So Chris Anstey continues to get used to Eastern Daylight Time. That is his 3rd field goal. And he has come off the bench to supply 6 points and 3 boards, and his team by 5. It is their largest advantage of the night. Ball knocked away out of bounds. It'll belong to Australia. Good defense on Javier Colon by Andrew Gaze. Ten turnovers on Puerto Rico. That is only 1 below their average. Heel. Carter hits the deck, nothing called. He's got a rolling Ronaldson. 1 more for Anstey. Patiently deposits 2. Anstey with 8, Australia by 7, their largest advantage. Puerto Rico by as many as 9 early in the first half as Ortiz rips Anstey to the ground, nothing called. Cassiano misses the 3, and Ronaldson wraps it up for Australia. Anstey doubled up. Ronaldson in rhythm. Hit the 3. Tony Ronaldson with his tournament high 15 points. He leads the Australians, who have the first double-figure lead of the match. Carter had a rolling Ortiz, and Anstey, who's been wildly active in this one, comes up with a pick. Ronaldson feels it. Carter runs a 3-on-3. challenges all comers. 2 minutes gone, second half. Australia, one of the favorites here, along with defending champion Puerto Rico, leading Puerto Rico by 10. Ronaldson from Gaze, short of Ortiz. McKinnon, as they say in hockey, Johnny on the spot. And Australia, with quite a run here to begin the second half, they lead it by a dozen. We'll be back with more right after this. At the end of the first half, Chris Anstey has been the story tonight, supplying 8 points after playing subpar in his first 3 games of the Goodwill. Here is Puerto Rico out of the timeout, and Gaze is all over Javier Colon, and once again the spandex defense of Andrew Gaze and Sam McKinnon causes the turnover. That is 12 for Puerto Rico, 1 more than their tournament average. Australia by a dozen and trying to seize control of this one. Anstey given room. Puerto Rico just 0 for 2 and 3 turnovers to begin the second half. Castellanos been their man after intermission. And it's one and done. And suddenly the teams are even off the glass at 19 after Puerto Rico dominated early on.
Bueno, Puerto Rico no encuentra el canasto en esta segunda mitad. 11-0 y 3 turnovers comenzando la segunda mitad. Dos puntos más para el equipo de Australia.
Tony Ronaldson drains a 3. He's got 18 points. Australia is 4 for 5 from beyond, and they are threatening to run away and hide. Suddenly leading by 15 against shell-shocked Puerto Rico. Ortiz, and another Puerto Rico turnover, their 13th. Heel for Mincy, and now Anstey has it for Australia. Wide open is Gaze. Ortiz suddenly saw him and fouled him as Puerto Rico has become somnambulent here in the early moments of the second half. The foul on Ortiz is his second, and only one on each team. And going to his bench now is Carlos Morales in search of a combination, immediately bringing in Orlando Vega, number 11, and number 7. Orlando Santiago. James Carter and his leading scorer in the tournament, Eddie Cassiano, to the bench. Australia by 17 points. Puerto Rico hasn't scored here in 4.5 minutes of the second half. A 14-0 Australian run in the half, 16-0 in all. Mincy for 3, and finally Puerto Rico on the scoreboard here almost 5 minutes into the second half. Mincy with 10. He is averaging 11 for the Goodwill Games. He is 4 for 4 tonight. Heel steps into a 3. It's an NBA 3 and all strings for Shane Heel. Heel is 6 for 8 for 16, 4 3-pointers on the night. In all, get this, Australia is 10 for 17 from beyond. Mincy looks to answer. Ortiz broke it loose for Santiago in a fresh half minute for Puerto Rico. Ortiz rumbles into Anstey, and he got the friendly roll. Ortiz, his first two of the second half, he's got 16. The margin 15 for Australia. Anstey rolls, met by Ortiz and company, and Jose wrapped him up for his third. Shane Heel was their leading scorer against Argentina. Played terribly against Russia. He was 1 for 9. He rebounded against Lithuania to strike for 12. And tonight, he has been potent from beyond the arc. His team is up by 15. Playing, they have outscored Puerto Rico by 22. Enough said. 6 minutes gone, second half. Ortiz bowls over his man. That's Anstey. Vega with that good first step. McKinnon stays in front of him. And Australia, all gold shirts, ruling the glass right there. Santiago on the flyby. Gaze, the rare miss. Mincy clears the ball and the area. Puerto Rico down 16. Colon for three. Yes. Javier Colon, who's been a double-figure scorer in every game they've played thus far, strangely quiet. His first three-pointer of the game, his first points of the second half, he's got 5. And Puerto Rico whittles the Australian advantage to 13. McKinnon, that's for 3. Colon has it stripped. Gaze lined up by Mincy, picking his pocket is Santiago. Never saw him coming. Ortiz from Colon. Yes, and a foul on McKinnon. And they're coming alive here are the Puerto Rican fans, as Ortiz with a three-point play can cut it to 10. Bully for Orlando Santiago. He's playing a lot in this one. In fact, he has played more as Goodwill games have gone on. And he helps to bring Puerto Rico back up the floor. And Ortiz, who's been the sleeping giant since that rapid start, converts on the three-point play, and now it's a 10-point game. Gaze trying to free himself from the defensive grip of Colon, and Colon too close that time, and the two number 10s collide, and Javier Colon is called for the personal foul. Here you see Gaze away from the ball. Colon using the body. He's 5'11", but a stocky 180. Anstey with an alley, cut off by Mincy, rolls around the hoop and gets 2. Wonderful grace by Chris Anstey, who has the 11th. Anstey hits the deck. Here comes Australia. Gaze around Santiago that time. That's for 3. Anstey to the floor, gets the floor burns. Heel comes up with it. Heel for Anstey, who wasn't expecting the pass. Red shirts galore up the floor, and Ortiz finds his man. It's Santiago. McKinnon was back and helpless defensively. It's a 10-point game again, under 12 to play, second half, an 8-2 Puerto Rico run. Colon sniffing for the pick. Chris Anstey returning to form in a blaze of glory. Santiago toe-to-toe with Heel. And we have a whistle as Gaze and Colon bump again. Two now on Colon, and suddenly 4 on the team. Number 6 coming into the game for the first time, Carmelo Travieso. And he replaces Colon. So now Travieso will try to stay up with Gaze. This is Heel again. Wiped away and out of bounds. Last touch by Orlando Vega. And Puerto Rico, it will belong to Australia with a fresh 30. McKinnon around the Anstey screen, the slam, and it counts. Sam McKinnon, they have a liberal interpretation of the continuation rule here, and they allow McKinnon's basket to count. And now he goes to the line looking for the three-point play. He's got 6 in the game. McKinnon, one of the 4 members on the squad, a member of the gold medal winning team of the 22 and under category in Melbourne a year ago. It's Australia by a dozen. Vega for 3. Mincy, fingertip control. Wonderfully done by Jerome Mincy. Travieso for 3. And we have a foul as well on McKinnon away from the play. So Puerto Rico is going to get it back. And with the 3 by Travieso on his first touch, they close to within 9. In all, an 11-4 run by Puerto Rico. Andrew Vlahov into the game, wrestles Mincy into the Puerto Rican bench. And Mincy saying, you can't possibly be calling a foul on me. And now Vlahov takes a swipe at Mincy. And they're holding Mincy back. And hopefully cooler heads will prevail. Mincy, and I believe he's got a case. Morales, by the way, the Puerto Rican coach, his players came way across half court. And he smartly sends them back before the officials can look around and see that the Puerto Rican bench empty. I will tell you from here that it looked initially like Vlahov, pictured right there for Australia, sent Mincy out of bounds. Now they tangled afterwards, and perhaps that is where things began to stew. We'll wait and see what the officials have here. They're calling technical fouls, as you might expect. Let's watch it again. Then you see Vlahov, and clearly with the forearm there, shoving him out of bounds, and Mincy complaining, and then Vlahov suddenly with a swipe, seemingly unprovoked. And I think it was Mincy kind of making a gesture with the referee, and perhaps Vlahov, out of the corner of his eye, thought it was a swipe at him, and then he took exception to that. Watch here, see? And maybe Mincy did mean something by that. I'm not quite sure. So we'll wait for an interpretation here. They're making some sort of an announcement in regards to what happened. It could be double technicals, and I think that's the case. So we'll call a T on Vlahov and a T on Mincy. And no initial foul on Vlahov as they pursue the loose ball. That's Jose Ortiz, who's having a word with one of the 2 officials who are both from the United States. And now as Vlahov chases down the loose ball, Mincy is called for the foul. That is 17 fouls on Puerto Rico. And the important fact here is they have no more to give. Any other fouls, and Australia will be shooting. For Mincy, his 3rd. As with Vlahov and Mincy, things are getting dicey. The Australia lead is 9 as we approach the halfway point of the second half. Seven to shoot. Puerto Rico sticking tight to the Australians. Vlahov and Mincy eye to eye as McKinnon goes swooping in, and he missed it. His own miss and a fresh 30. Gaze lines up a 3. Down goes Vlahov. Sounds like a boxing match. Gaze with a loose ball. Found Anstey, and again, Chris Anstey can't handle the pass, although in truth it was behind him, and it goes out of bounds. You'll recall that Anstey, pictured right there against the Russians a game or 2 ago, was eye to eye with Andrei Fetisov, as Australia, in their second game of the tournament, very frustrated with their own poor play, and those guys were going at it. Ortiz leans and scores. Ortiz, who's averaging a double-double, the only player in the Goodwill Games to do so, with 21 and 11 here, and suddenly the Australian lead has shrunk to 7. Once as large as 17, and a whistle away from the play as Australia goes on offense, and it looks to be a Puerto Rican foul. If it's Mincy, it's bad news. That's 4 on him. And he will come to the bench. So Puerto Rico now will have to do with out one of their better players in Mincy, and Edgar Leon, who is really a very capable substitute at 6'8", 220. And he has not missed a shot in the Goodwill games. He's 4 for 4 for the tournament, averaging about 17 minutes, but he'll have to show some offense here and replace the offense that goes to the Puerto Rican bench in the form of Mincy. Eddie Casiano is still on the Puerto Rican bench here, as Morales saving him and putting the defenders in, and they've done the job. They've closed the gap. Though with the fouls taken, it's a 9-point lead for Australia. Past the halfway point of the second half. Santiago, a push shot for a 3, looking for the bank to be open, and Paul Rogers, who's been stuck to the bench because of the exemplary play of Anstey, is back in, and he comes down with a rebound. Heel, the bump and run with Santiago is glued to him. Gaze against Travieso, 6 to shoot. Andrew Gaze into action, planted, Blahav for 3. And it goes over the top. It'll belong to Puerto Rico. (68-59) Australia. Travieso, good ball fake. Took punishment, no call. Travieso glued to Gaze. Blahav the interference, Ortiz the show. And on the pick and roll, we have a foul, looks to be against Travieso. The first on him, and as we mentioned earlier, Puerto Rico in the penalty. So Australia will shoot from here on in, and Morales now making his move with Casiano and Colon. 2 of his top 3 scorers who've been on the bench as he's unleashed the defensive unit. That's Blahav going to the Australian bench. At any rate, Colon and Casiano come back in with the deficit now a bit more manageable. Australia has marched to the line 12 times tonight, hitting 9. Only 2 for 3 of the Puerto Ricans. And Gaze, who came into this one shooting 16 for 16 for the tournament, is 7 for 9. Barry Barnes' team is up 10. Under 9 to play, second half. Travieso, that's for 3. Heel running off the ball, Colon with him. Ronaldson, that's Leon, in back of him with 9 to shoot. Ronaldson looking pass first, nothing there, missed the shot. 69-59, Australia. Leon wipes a man away, hits the deck, and then hitting the deck again, thanks to Leon, is Rogers. And Rogers will be called for the personal foul. For Rogers, only his first and 5 on the team, and we have a timeout. 3. In addition, Puerto Rico has turned the ball over 16 times. That is 5 above their Goodwill games average. And now Edgar Leon, who is cast in a very important role now, playing for the foul-plagued Jerome Mincy, will get another at the line. He's been around, Leon, 34 years old, a veteran of the national team for some 11 seasons. And he played with the gold medal winning Puerto Rican team at the Goodwill Games, St. Petersburg in '94. As Chris Anstey's played well, but getting a blow here. With under 8 to go in the second half, the Australia advantage is 9. Heel forced it against Travieso. Ortiz grabs the air ball. Ortiz with 13 boards in the game. And Australia comes up with another turnover, the 17th for Puerto Rico. Heel, good look for Rogers, who got two, as Ortiz was slow coming up the floor and nobody took Rogers. A nice spot by Ronaldson, who has started an offensive role, and Australia now leads it by 11. And Ortiz, frustrated, comes up with the foul, I believe. Let's see. He and Rogers were going at it, or is the call against Rogers? It is on Ortiz. And that is his fourth. So keep in mind, two of the three starting big men for Puerto Rico in foul trouble, in Ortiz and Mincy, who rides the Puerto Rico bench right now. And still 7:06 to go here in the second half. The aforementioned Jerome Mincy. Turnovers a key. It was 9-4 at halftime as well. Good look, Ronaldson for Gaze. Two sets of eyes watching him. And now we have a foul here on Javier Colon. So Puerto Rico really forced to foul a great deal here. They have been in the penalty for some time. And Colon recording his third. And Heel will toe the strike, getting two. Shane Heel, wonderful tonight. He has scored 16. He's 4 for 7 from beyond the arc. One blemish in Australia's record, they have not shot fouls well tonight. 64%, 9 for 14. 1 of 2 for Heel. That's a 12-point lead. Casiano trying to get his. Nothing doing. It has been a mighty struggle for Eddie Casiano tonight. 3 for 12 shooting, the man who was second in scoring in the tournament. Gaze locks up with Travieso, 7 to shoot. Ronaldson and Leon tangling underneath. Hence the reason for the whistle. And Edgar Leon is called for his third. 3 personals on Leon in 9 minutes as Eddie Casiano gets instructions from Carlos Morales. And Barry Barnes should be satisfied with the current state of affairs. Time running thin for Puerto Rico. They're down 14. Ronaldson with 20 to lead Australia. Travieso for 3. And Ronaldson jealously guards it for Australia. And Australia in absolutely no hurry now. They have reason to just run their sets, go deep into the shot clock. They lead by 14, under 6 to play. Ronaldson for Gaze off the fingernails and out of bounds. James Carter into the game, replacing Travieso. An 8-1 Australian run since Puerto Rico cut the lead to 7. Ortiz, who, if he can, needs to take over here. Casiano has been strangely silent all night long. Ortiz with a tournament high 23 on 11 for 17 shooting. Gaze finds McKinnon, and he found Ortiz at the top, and if it's Ortiz, he's gone. So Jose Ortiz Jim, it looks as though Australia will medal for the first time in its international basketball history. Barry Barnes' team was leading by 3 at halftime. They burst out of the gate with a 14-0 run. Carlos Morales, the head coach for Puerto Rico, went to a defensive unit. They got it as close as 7. He put his scorers back in, but Australia is threatening to pull away in this one. In addition, Puerto Rico's best player perhaps ever in the island's history, Jose Ortiz, their starting center, has fouled out of the game. So it's Australia now by 13 with 5 minutes to go, and Puerto Rico really showing no ability here to make any kind of a run. Their leading scorer in the tournament, number 5, Eddie Casiano, has it right here, has been strangely silent. He's the Goodwill Games leading scorer, and he's shooting 3 for 12, though trying to get it going here with Ortiz on the bench. He knows he's got to take over. Here, Casiano into the teeth of the Australian defense. The personal foul was on Anstey, Chris Anstey. As you take a look at Jose Ortiz, the only player in the Goodwill Games to average a double-double. And he'll sit the rest of this one out, as Puerto Rico will look to Casiano to somehow bring them back. Now remember, Puerto Rico, and there is Anstey tangling with Edgar Leon. Now earlier in the half, we had Vlahov going face-to-face. That was Australia's Vlahov, along with Jerome Mincy of Puerto Rico. This is what happened earlier. And in fact, the Puerto Rican bench emptied, but fortunately the officials didn't see it. And Anstey, who had his own words in whatever language with Andrei Fetisov of Russia a couple of games ago, now will march to the line. That is Jerome Mincy. He is plagued with 4 personal fouls, and he comes into the game. As Anstey, who's had a terrible tournament, quite frankly, up until now, that is the aforementioned Andre Vlahov for Australia. Anstey has had a wonderful night tonight here, coming off the bench and supplying a dozen and 6 boards. So the Australians keeping Puerto Rico at arm's length with 4:40 now to go here in the second half. They lead by 13. This is James Carter, the native New Yorker, against Shane Heels, played very well. Javier Colon got 2 back. Colon in there for his offense. He scored in double figures in each of the previous 3 games, but only 7. And the Australian advantage is 11. Remember, coming up on TBS Superstation, it'll be the United States and Lithuania. The winner of that one facing the winner of this one for the gold. And now let's go back to Jim Lampley here in New York. So Shane Heel now going to the line for Australia. And the shame of it for Puerto Rico is they got into foul trouble early. And that has meant an inexorable march to the line for Australia. 16 fouls made, make it 17 now to only 3 for Puerto Rico. And as you look at the stat sheet, that's the difference because Puerto Rico has 3 more field goals. Make it 4 more as Colon cruises in, and he will go to the line looking for 1 more. Javier Colon. They need to gather around now and pick up for Ortiz, who is gone because of fouls, and Colon certainly one of them, who is more than capable. And now looks to reach double figures for the 4th straight game. So Colon with 10, that is the margin to overcome for Puerto Rico. Ronaldson with 11 to shoot. Anstey, a good passer from the high post. McKinnon, 4 to shoot. Going to have to chuck it up. Taken by Puerto Rico. 3.5 to play second half. It's a 10-point lead for Australia. And Puerto Rico turnovers, a serious problem for them tonight. That is their 19th. Well, the question is, can Australia provide the knockout punch? One person who has done so in his career, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Evander Holyfield, sitting courtside and enjoying a very good game. 79-69 Australia, 3:20 and counting second half. And Australia in no hurry. The Puerto Ricans trying to force the issue with some trapping here out of the timeout. Ten to shoot. Gaze against Cassiano, feigning as if he took a cheap shot. Ronaldson, the go-to guy, as he has been throughout this one. And a nice timely tap right there, as Ronaldson's shot was threatening to spill off. And Sam McKinnon doing some timely dirty work. McKinnon tonight, 9 points, and he leads Australia with 10 rebounds. Cassiano hitting the three. Cassiano with a dozen. The lead is 9. Heel smartly backs it out. 2:25 and counting. Australia threatening to go to the gold medal game for the first time in international play in its history. Anstey rolling. And it goes over the backboard and out of bounds. Orlando Santiago, number 7, is in for James Carter. Carter, the starter. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. With a couple of field goals for 4. And here comes Santiago handling for Puerto Rico. And Gaze knocked that away and out of bounds. He is claiming he didn't touch it. And you know what? He might have a case. Cologne may have lost that. 2 minutes to play. Cassiano steps into the glass. Ripped away by Ronaldson. That's his 5th board to go along with his team-high 20 points with 1:50 to play. And Santiago, as Puerto Rico in the scrambling situation, now forced a foul. So the defending gold medal champions of the Goodwill Games, Puerto Rico, in desperate straits right now, down 9 with 1:49 to go, and the island's best player sitting it out. They won in St. Petersburg in '94. The only major championship Puerto Rico has ever won in international play. And Australia looking for its medal for the first time in its international history. Santiago off the miss by Mincy. Puerto Rico in search of a 3. The give and go from Leon. Heel has it for Australia. A basket here sews it up. And Cassiano guaranteeing virtually that they'll get 2, with Gaze, the extraordinary foul shooter, going to the line for a couple. Cassiano perhaps in frustration as much as strategy. Sends Gaze to the line. Ironically, struggling at the line all night. Though he has had 6 of his last 6. And you say struggling, he is 9 for 11. I do believe that Australia is heading to the gold medal game. No need to bite any fingernails anymore. You could virtually sew this baby up. Anstey off the Cassiano miss. Australia, if you can hear me down under, you will play in the gold medal game tomorrow against the winner of the U.S.-Lithuania game coming up. A minute to play. Anstey, who's rediscovered himself here, unable to handle the pass. It's been one of the few blemishes in his game tonight, the inability to catch the ball down low on several important occasions. But he stepped up when it counted. And he came off the bench and he has played the bulk of the game at the center spot for the starter, Paul Rogers. For Leon, his first field goal with 40 seconds to play. And Australia wisely spreads the floor. They lead by 11.5 minutes to go and 14 seconds to shoot. And we have a call underneath. Jeff Nichols with the whistle with 22.5 to go. And Eddie Cassiano, who was really a national hero on Sunday night when he scored 25 of his 31 in the second half. His Puerto Rico team came back from the depths of despair. They were down 19 against the United States on Sunday night. And it made blazing headlines, not only in the Puerto Rican publication here in New York City, but on the island as well, as they were celebrating Puerto Rico's stunning come-from-behind victory. But now, the defending gold medal champions will go down to defeat, and many of those players, including Ortiz, were there in St. Petersburg when they did it. And once again for Australia, as high as 4th in the Olympics, they will get a chance in their gold uniforms to go for the gold tomorrow. Barry Barnes' team playing very well, coming out with that stunning 14-0 run to begin the second half of play. They end up winning this one by a double.